This gives me such a feeling of power. That gives me such a feeling of power. And I can take this off too. Good morning. If you'll find your seats and prepare for this morning's service. Good morning. My name is Pat Moore, and I'm your worship leader for today. And I'd like to take just a second to address those of us who are here in the sanctuary, and to be advised that this service is being streamed on YouTube. And to those of you who are watching on the stream service, we're very glad to have you watching, but would, of course, rather have you here with us in person. Also, let me remind you that we do have a pre and post Zoom service that runs off the YouTube stream of the service inside the Zoom, so you can join that to talk with people. Please make sure that you've read the announcements in your printed order of service, and especially be sure to read the weekly events that are emailed to you each Thursday, as well as the unigram and the website. I urge you to keep our website, your website incidentally, open as a tab on your internet browser so you can see what's happening immediately. You don't want to miss anything. Please practice social distancing and mask wearing per the board-approved guidelines, which enables us to meet here in person. Don't take any chances. We don't want to lose anybody. Now let us center us for today's service, and remember to silence all your electronic devices as soon as we listen to the prelude.
Our prelude this morning is Thanksgiving Song by Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Grateful for each hand we hold, gathered round this table. From far and near we travel home, blessed that we are able. Grateful for this sheltered place, with light in every window. Say welcome, welcome, share this feast. Come in away from sorrow. Father, mother, daughter, son, neighbor, friend, and friendless, all together, everyone, in the gift of loving kindness. Grateful for what's understood and all that is forgiven. We try so hard to be good, to lead a life worth living. Father, mother, daughter, son, Lord's table.
That was lovely, Anna. Thank you. If you would now please stand with me and join in the congregational covenant as found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant with one another. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbia. Unitarian Universalism is a diverse and non-creedal religion. We're a covenantal religion, which means that we don't have to believe the same in order to treat each other the same, with respect, equity, compassion, and dignity. Our community is based on deeds, not creeds. As Unitarian Universalists, we side with love, embracing all people regardless of age, color, race, socioeconomic status, physical ability, or religious background. We're a welcoming congregation, which means that we also embrace LGBTQ individuals. We encourage everyone to wear name tags, and I already forgot mine. Board members wear green name tags, and they always welcome your comments, questions, and suggestions. Would the members of the board please stand and so that now that you may be recognized? Thank you. At this time, we'd also like to recognize any guests or visitors who are with us today. If you're willing and able, please rise and share with us your name and where you're from, or if you have guests, please feel free to introduce them. And please wait for Steve to bring around the microphone.
Last time I had my guest with me, I didn't introduce her because you never know how that's going to go down with a middle schooler. I'm a relatively new member myself. My name's Annette Flavel, and this is my daughter, Isabella Trejo.
I remember Annette coming to one of our new members, and you're talking about your daughter. Nice to meet you, Isabel. When we're further along in our recovery, we'll take time to greet each other, and I'll tell you that you're all welcome to stay and continue your conversations and enjoy refreshments in the social hall. But until then, just look forward to it, and you can talk outside. Today's chalice lighter is Jennifer Mobley, and she's going to tell you just a little bit about herself before we light the chalice.
Good morning, everyone. So I just want to say I think it was awesome that the new guest introduced themselves or was introduced, because I never raised my hand ever since I was coming here. And my plan for anonymity failed because lovely Pat asked me to light the chalice, and I'm so honored. But my name is Jennifer, and I'm a somewhat recent transplant from Phoenix, Arizona. I've been living in the Valley of the Sun for 20 years, moved out here. I'm originally from Minot, North Dakota. Most people have never heard of that place, but this is my first time ever in the South or on the East, and I've been here since May. So I'll just share, I guess by trade, I'm a board-registered art therapist. I'm a board-certified registered art therapist. And part of our code of ethics is to support social justice, environmental concerns. So I'm happy to bring that profession and work here in the Midlands. I'm also a licensed professional counselor. And I want to give a shout out to the LLR. I don't think people normally do that, but I heard it was kind of a daunting experience to try to get licensed here, but they granted my license with ease a couple weeks ago. So that's probably enough about me. What else? I like electronic French dance music. I like trail running. And I have a grown son who's the love of my life. He's back in Arizona and he's a software engineer. And I want to say thank you for everyone for being so kind and supportive. I was looking for religious science or science of mind center and couldn't find one here in this area, so I've been fully welcomed into this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I might add, she is a pet sitter par excellence. She's already done that for me. Yes. Spirit of light and life coming to us.
I'm pleased to invite Elizabeth Harris to join me to sing our musical meditation, We Shall Be Known by Mamuse. Information about Mamuse can be found at www.mamuse.org.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Anna, for that. So we moved to a time in our service that we used to bring children down to the front, but we're not quite back to that point yet, so I get to go off camera. All the folks that are listening on YouTube or on Zoom have to kind of listen in and can't get to see me, but it gives me a chance to talk to some of our younger folks in the back and some of our former Methodists that sit in the back. Sorry, Joe, I stole your joke there. So you get some time off this week, right? Get some time off this week? What do you get some time off for? A little break from school? Do you get a whole week off? Do you get a few days off? Like, what do you get? 2 days off. 3 days off. 2 days on and then 3 days off. That's right. You know, some folks get a full week off. Oh, you get some time off?
Yeah, I get from Monday to Friday.
What? All right, we're transferring schools. I have a middle school daughter, and she's already trying to negotiate. She's supposed to go Monday and Tuesday, but she's saying, you know what? How about a full week? She hasn't convinced me yet, but I told her to bring her best argument this afternoon, and we would see. So one of the things that we do in celebrating this holiday, of course, we gather with family. It's a holiday about gratitude, gratefulness. It's something my family does every night at dinner. We say some things that we are grateful for. And it often starts some great conversation. So I thought I'd give you a chance to do that. Would anybody like to name something that they are grateful for this morning? And that means that you are glad that it's in your life, or you're glad or you miss it when it's not. So what are some things that you're grateful for? Shout them out. Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm grateful for my husband, Charlie.
All right, great.
Today is our 1-year anniversary.
Well, awesome. 1 year, happy anniversary. What are some things you're grateful for?
Well, she says she's grateful for her family, but not grateful enough to say it out loud.
Well, that's something. That's close. Anybody else want to say something you're grateful for? All right, heading up there. Helps just to say it out loud.
Being alive.
All right, Mike, thank you. Anybody else want to name something that they're grateful for? Swimming pool. A swimming pool. I told y'all last week he's on pain medicine. You can't trust him.
This congregation.
All right, this congregation, definitely. All right, well, this is a season, and it helps, and we'll talk about this a little bit later during the sermon, but this is a time, not just this week for this holiday, but it's actually a spiritual practice to get in the habit of naming out loud and focusing on things that we are grateful for and letting gratitude be a big part of our life and our spirituality. I'm going to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Scott, who's in the back there. In 3 weeks, on December 12th, the CYRE program, they are going to present a holiday program during the service, and so you definitely want to be here for that Sunday, and even including some outside activities as well. So we'll look forward to hearing more from Scott about that. And at this time, Scott, I'll let you direct folks to whatever you're doing for CYRE this morning. All right, I read these words last week around this time during our virtual service. The words seem just so relevant and connected to our focus for today as well. And so I share it again. These are words from the poet David Whyte. He writes, "Gratitude is not a passive response to something we have been given. Gratitude arises from paying attention, from being awake in the presence of everything that lives within and without and beside us. Gratitude is not necessarily something that is shown after the event. It is the deep a priori state of attention that shows we understand and are equal to the gifted nature of life. Gratitude is the understanding that many millions of things must come together and live together and mesh together and breathe together in order for us to take even one more breath of air. That the underlying gift of life and incarnation as a living, participating human being is a privilege. That we are miraculously part of something rather than nothing. Even if that something is temporarily pain or despair, we inhabit a living world with real faces, real voices, laughter, the color blue, the green of the fields, the fresh of a cold wind, or the tawny hue of a winter landscape. To see the full miraculous essentiality of the color blue is to be grateful with no necessity for a word of thanks. To see fully the beauty of a daughter's face across the table, of a son's outline against the mountains, is to be fully grateful without having to seek a God to thank him. To sit among friends and strangers and happy dogs, or the whole menagerie of our acquaintance, hearing many voices, strange opinions, to intuit even stranger inner lives beneath calm surface lives, to inhabit many worlds at once in this world, to be a someone amongst all other someones, and therefore to make a conversation without saying a word, is to deepen our sense of presence and therefore our natural sense of thankfulness, that everything happens both with us and without us, that we are participants and witnesses all at once. Poet David White. At this time, we move to a point in our service of lighting candles for community. And it is my great pleasure today to lead us off as we invite you each week to light a candle for a joy or a concern that you are bringing into this space. To come forward, there are candles in the foyer that you can get and come down and briefly share your joy or concern with this community. The first candle I light today is on behalf of some folks in our congregation that want to express their thankfulness and gratitude to the musicians, Anna and Karen and David, for yesterday's event outside and for Bill Dolly helping to set things up. The words that I received were providing a beautiful time of calm and peace in the midst of our lives yesterday, so thank them. I also want to light a personal candle. I had a great opportunity to go up to Spartanburg this weekend, and my daughter Mary, who is a theater major there at USC Upstate, was stage manager for her first show. And so we were able to see the Friday night showing of the play Sweat. And she did a wonderful job in the booth, which is where she wants to be, not up on stage. She's exactly where she wants to be, and she did a great job as a first time managing her show. I invite you at this time to come forward with candles that you want to share.
Hi, my name is Jane Gibson. This is the third time I've been here, and I just feel so wonderful for the friendliness that all of you have shown me. The minute I come in, someone comes up to me and wants to introduce themselves. Today, it's not really personal as well as it is, but I was a teacher in middle school for 25 years up in Maryland, and I've been retired for 5. I frequently get emails and texts from my friends who are teachers. I want you to just think and be grateful for the teachers that your children have had. The last 2 years have been difficult for parents. They've been difficult for students. But we as teachers go into this profession because we care about these children. We care about making them the best they can be. And these days, it's a global society that we're preparing them for. But the teachers that I hear from are ones that are just desperate to get out. They've been teaching on the same day, in class, and on Zoom. They have to keep up with the students wherever they are. They, of course, are having students who disappear during the Zoom calls, and then they are reprimanded by the people in the front office for not keeping track of all the students that they're supposed to be having in their classrooms, and sometimes this is 25 and 30 students. I wonder what the world will be like when not enough people go into education. It's just going to be, I'm afraid, what's happening, because I will hear from these education departments and colleges, they have very few people wanting to go into, they like elementary education. Those kids love their teachers, love what they're doing. But once it gets to secondary, it's very hard to entertain these students. And to keep their attention, you do have to be an entertainer. So I think I decided that the days were 1/3 being an entertainer to get their attention, 1/3 of controlling behaviors of the students who didn't want to be there, and that left 1/3 of the class for me to actually teach the math. And I'm fervent about math because it is the language of all the sciences, and students just, if they would catch on to how fascinating it was, when they did, they loved it. So please, if you know a teacher, and I want to tell all the teachers here, thank you, but if you know a teacher, make it known to them that you're grateful for what they're doing for your children or your grandchildren, and maybe for some of you for great-grandchildren. But today was a good day for me to bring this up, and thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chuck Ashley. And as of last month, Bud and I have been friends of this group for 2 years now. And I thought I would share something with you very personal about our youngest child that is a real special thankfulness for us. It's probably a different kind of Thanksgiving than the rest of you are going to be having. A few years ago, our son Jesse when he was 24, he took a fall. He fell about 40 feet and he landed on concrete. And he suffered a lot of broken bones, and it busted up his head pretty good. And as a result, he has a traumatic brain injury that's forever. And he now has the mentality of about a 8 to 10-year-old child, and this is also forever. So now, instead of him growing up and having children and having a life, he is our forever child. He is our forever child. He will never grow up. However, in these past 4 years, this boy has been in a wheelchair with a hemiplegia, and he's been in Charleston, and Bud and I have traveled religiously every week to see him. And then they moved him to Chesterfield, where we went religiously every week to see him. And finally, this past January, we got him moved to Columbia, and he got to start seeing a physical therapist, which he jumped on like a demon. And he was doing physical therapy just like nobody's business. He wanted to do it so bad. He really, really, really poured his heart into it, and he's been doing physical therapy so hard. This boy who we were told was going to be a vegetable, this boy who we were told was not ever going to talk another intelligent sentence, has now read 5 novels. This boy that we were told would never live any kind of decent life at all, never get out of a wheelchair, is now walking on a walker. And Bud has some pictures of him, recent pictures on his phone. If anybody would like to see after service what I like to call a real Thanksgiving. It's the Thanksgiving of a young man who's on his feet again, who was literally given his life again, just in a different way.
We light one final candle for the joys, the concerns that we're holding close this morning, not sharing out loud, but connected together in this community. I invite you to take a moment and breathe deeply, feel all that has been offered into this space to feel, joys and concerns, of gratitude and grief, and hold in this community together. Thank you. Before we move into a time of receiving our offering this morning, I do remind you that our Share the Plate recipient for this month is Meals on Wheels. Many of you volunteer and are financial supporters, so I know you want to take a great opportunity to contribute this month to Meals on Wheels. Also want to create an opportunity for this month of November, and Connie is going to come and share a little bit about the work.
Good morning. I am a co-chair of the Social Action Committee here at the church. And as you know, this month is Guest at Your Table. Guest at Your Table supports the UU Service Committee, which is an independent, non-sectarian nonprofit. UUSC is a leading voice for human rights and social justice in the United States and around the world. As members, we join in a committee of over 40,000 supporters who share our principles and passion for justice. And most importantly, a coalition of others who put their hands in the arc of a universe and help bend it toward justice. Today, I want to share with you one project that the UUSC, the UU Service Committee, supports, and it is far from us. It's east of Australia and north of New Zealand. It's a small island, Kiowa, that citizens of Fiji moved to in 1947. They moved there to maintain their practices, their language, and cultures that they had inherited from their past. Given Kiowa's relatively recent history, its people are still working to establish a secure footing and resilient future for generations to come. But it's not just their own future the people of Kiowa are working to preserve. Kiowans are now preparing the possibility that as conditions worsen due to climate change, that many people might need to relocate to their island. The Kiowa Island Community Organization, known as KICO, and its eloquent spokesman, Maina Talia, wants structures and society to be climate proof. It is working towards that goal by training community members in agroforestry, an agricultural technique that helps yield climate-tolerant crops and cleaner water. UUSC, our service committee, is providing funding to KICO while amplifying the Korean stories and priorities at the global stage. We are the first organization to provide support to their efforts. We are the first funding they have received in 75 years. UUSC hopes that with additional support and awareness about Kiowa, the island will be able to achieve their vision and improve quality of life and resiliency, especially now with the climate the way it is. Advancing human rights is the work of many going forward, and that is the work of UUSC.
And just as a quick reminder that we forgot to put in the script, that's what these envelopes on your seats are about. They can go in the box, the guest at your table box, and we'll be bringing some of these stories to you over the next couple of services as well.
For our offertory music today, I welcome euphonium player David Roof, and we'll be sharing the second movement from Elaine Fine's Sonata for Euphonium and Piano.
think it's safe to say we can be very much expressing our gratitude for the musicians that we have here at the UCC and for Anna and leading our music here. Makes up for just having just a mediocre minister when you have such a great music program. Oh. All right, I was just kidding. Mediocre was a too high of an assessment, I know. I know when we get to this week each year, there's so much complication around this particular holiday and its history and what it means, particularly for natives who lived in this land and what happened and what was the beginning of happening for them in the experience here. And so there's so many ways to avoid this holiday if you so wish, or not make it a part of your gathering. But despite any ways that we feel about it, it is a week that is recognized. It is a holiday that is telling us we are supposed to gather as families, right? That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get together. We're supposed to eat. We're supposed to take some time off. And so why not take advantage of that focus on gratitude to really remind ourselves of how important gratitude is for us and our spirituality. Gratitude being what I believe is probably one of the most important parts of a healthy spirituality. Incorporating it into our spiritual practice, our understandings, our disciplines, our attitudes, our approaches to understanding our connection to everything around us. Gratitude is such a powerful tool. You know, there's a difference between feeling grateful and being grateful. It sounds similar, but I read recently the difference between feeling grateful and being grateful is simply in that we don't have a tremendous amount of control over how we feel. Those feelings come, they're responses to both conscious and unconscious stimuli in our lives. And certainly we can control how we use those emotions. We can control how we appropriate them and integrate them into our lives instead of them controlling us, in a sense, us managing those emotions. But we really can't control how we feel. Those feelings just come. You can't manufacture a feeling of gratefulness. On the other hand, being grateful is actually a discipline, a practice. It is choosing to be grateful for the good and the bad, the easy days and the difficult days, the extraordinary and the mundane. It is the practice of creating experiences in our lives for what we value and maintaining place in our lives for those experiences when they are missing. As I mentioned during the Moment for All Ages, my family has incorporated for a few years now at dinner an opportunity for conversation together. Our conversations used to look like this. How was your day? Good. What was good about it? Stuff. And that was just like my wife and I talking. We haven't even gotten to the teenagers yet involved in the conversation. And we just found like that kind of checking in, especially, you know, in a day and age where we are checking in constantly. We are texting constantly. And so there's not a huge shock when you might go through something in the day to know when you get home, you're pretty caught up on life. And so we decided to shift gears to create different kind of conversation and found an importance to gratitude in our own personal spirituality. And so now we sit down at the table and at some point the kids know that the conversation is going to start like this. What are you grateful for today? And they're usually ready. Sometimes they will start it off and say, well, I'm grateful for this today. And they always want to be the one to say, I'm grateful for this dinner. And they think, well, I got my thing out there. And so we had to make a rule that certainly you can be grateful for dinner, but it has to be a dinner and what else? And what we found is the more that we talk about it, and even for ourselves, as the adults sitting around the table to actually take a deep breath and think deeply about what you're grateful for in that moment, on that day, in the present, is a great way to find a pathway into the soul of where you are on that given day. And it creates tremendous conversation to be able to say, I am grateful for this friend at school. Well, what are you grateful for about that friend? What do they mean to you? How did your friendship develop? There's just such wonderful things that come. And the kids get to hear from us as the parents, as the adults, of this is what I'm grateful for in my life, that I have this going on. And of course, with a 15-month-old now sitting around the table, the only word that she says right now is dada, which is great. She says it with such vigor too, and sometimes it's dada, and sometimes it's dada. And so I just love to look at her and say, what are you grateful for? And she looks and goes, dada. I have to admit that kind of pumps some energy into the soul every night. I don't know if that would be a helpful resource for you in your family life, but finding a way to actually practice the discipline of gratitude is so important to the path of being grateful and incorporating gratitude into your life, into your spiritual life. Letting it be something that you make yourself do. That's the point of the discipline, is to make yourself do that. It's a spiritual practice, and it doesn't always come easy. And to be able to name gratitude and moments of gratitude on the days that are really tough are the conversations that can create grief and can create healing, can create an important process of grievance on the path to healing as well often. I came across a book about a month ago that was written by the minister at All Souls UU congregation in New York City. I'm Galen Gingerich, and the name of the book is The Way of Gratitude. So everything else I'm going to share today is really a sharing of the work that Galen presents in this book and comes as a recommendation to really incorporate this as even this week as a part of your practice of gratitude and incorporating it into your lives. It is a beautifully well-written book that outlines the importance of gratitude and also the practices of gratitude. He just simply begins by saying, if spirituality is the practice of opening ourselves to everyone and everything else, then gratitude is the leading indicator of our spiritual progress. Gratitude is the hallmark of people who practice radical openness to life. Its presence in our lives, moment by moment and day by day, becomes a source of meaning and joy that will not desert us, even in our most difficult times. In the book, Galen points out two key foundations that are essential to creating a space for the spiritual practice of gratitude in our lives, which I thought oftentimes when someone presents something on gratitude, they just tell you have to do it. It's like, well, I don't feel like it today. And so I just think it's wonderful. One of the draws that I had to this book that was so meaningful for me is that it actually pointed out this is how it happens. This is the foundation that you have to have in place in your spiritual life to actually be able to be open to the experience of gratitude in our lives. The first thing he says that is a key foundation of the two foundations is a search for deep meaning in our life. If you are not searching for deep meaning, then you're really not going to be open to the experience of gratitude. Oftentimes, religion has failed, especially in modern times, to be a place that exposes folks to the experience of a search for deep meaning. Religion has often become institutions that limit themselves, claiming that they have the market on truth and understanding and its practice, and make its members adhere to it without any sense of ability to waffle if you're going to belong. And oftentimes that stifling of creativity, that stifling of questioning has turned so many people away from religious institutions in a way that we wonder, how are people getting that deep meaning, that sense of looking for meaning in their lives met? Often researchers have said, well, maybe that's not that important. But what our culture is teaching us today, in a culture that identifies very heavily as spiritual but not religious, is that there is still a need for deep meaning in our lives, even if it's not found through religious institutions, through various congregations and faith communities. There is still a need for deep meaning. Galen shares that he invited students from the congregation at All Souls to his home with his wife to have conversation and dinner, and asked the question of what drew you first to New York City, and they all had different ways. None of them were born there for the most part. They were all gathered for some reasons, education or job. And then they asked the question, well, what draws you to All Souls? And the two main answers that were brought to the table were, one, I'm searching for deeper meaning in my life and what can feel like a very meaningless life. And in a city like New York where no one seems to belong, I'm looking for a place to belong, a place to connect. And he said, I was so excited to hear that. That's exactly what we're doing. And he said, well, I just wonder, how do you talk about this with other people in your life? And the overwhelming response from that community was, oh, we don't talk about it. You don't want to be a person that is admitting that you belong to a faith community, that you are involved. If our friends knew we were coming to a church, they would go on an intervention and say, what's wrong with you? Why are you connecting to that in such a way? Now, he admits that probably other parts of the country may be slanted in the other direction. People might wonder why you're not belonging to a faith community. But what an amazing thing that is for us to ponder as a faith community. That there are questions, there are concerns, there are hesitations about, man, I want meaning, I want belonging, but I don't know if I want to be a part of that. It reminds me that for the UUCC, we have to be a place, always be a place that offers belonging without creedal enforcement. We have to be a place that embraces and tolerates complexity, a place where you can practice a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, because we long for that. We long for that in our lives, and therefore we need to provide that as a congregation. And we need to be wary of times where we want to protect ourselves and clamp things down and make people adhere to certain things. We want to be a place of freedom. Humans long for it, and it is the gateway to making meaning in our lives. The other foundation that Galen points out is radical openness, the practice of having eyes wide open and paying attention to our world around us. Boy, aren't we really good at that these days? Aren't we so great at, hold on. Sorry, I've got some text I gotta catch up on. Aren't we so good at talking to the top of each other's head all the time? For me and my family and I, sometimes we gather and we're gonna watch a movie, and I look around the room and everybody's like this, aren't we watching the movie? Or is anyone watching? Oh, I'm listening to it. Oh, well, all right. But I know that we struggle in our culture today to pay attention to everything around us. And so Galen points out that it's very important to have radical openness, radical discipline of paying attention in order for gratitude to find its way into our lives. There was a woman named Sarah Williams who was working on a degree in sustainable agriculture at Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. And she described this practicum she took during a second semester at the school. She said she was assigned to a farmer in the area who practiced biodynamic farming and was also a Native American. When she showed up at the farm for the first time, the farmer greeted her and then led her to a large tree standing on its own, somewhat away from the farm buildings. And the farmer told her, "Your work this semester is to sit with this tree." She was dumbfounded. She said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to write about? What am I supposed to reflect on?" He said, "You are supposed to sit with this tree. And the tree will tell you what that means." For several hours each week for the rest of the semester, Sarah sat with her tree. And then since she began in January, there wasn't that much to see at first, at least to her eye. Against the sky, the sturdy trunk stood tall and silent, the bare branches occasionally swaying in the breeze and sometimes whipping in the wind. When it rained, she would watch the water run down the bark and into the ground. As she watched the water disappear, however, she realized that she could only see half of the tree, maybe even less than half. Its roots plunged deep into the earth below, holding tight against the wind and drawing water and nutrients from the soil and sending them upward into the trunk and then out to the branches. When spring came, she watched buds form on the branches and the leaves unfurl. She already knew about photosynthesis, the work of leaves, which transforms sunlight and water into carbohydrate molecules, providing fuel for the rest of the tree's work. From the perspective of a leaf, the oxygen it gives off is merely a waste product. Week after week, Sarah continued to sit with this tree. She saw bugs appear on the bark, birds show up to feed on the bugs. She saw worms aerating and enriching the soil beneath the canopy, and the birds feeding on the worms. Over time, she began to realize what the farmer wanted her to understand. The tree, her tree, was alive. While she could have said beforehand that all trees are alive, she had never realized how fully alive each tree was and how much a community of life it was. Each leaf, each branch on her tree was alive, as was each individual bug, each individual bird, each individual worm. Her tree was a community of life, alive in its own unique, distinctive, and irreplaceable way. Sarah noticed these things because she paid careful attention to the tree over a long period of time. She practiced the discipline of openness, eyes wide open. In much the same way, you and I need to develop that practice of opening ourselves up, taking deep breaths, calming our lives, and actually paying attention to what is going on around us, not just to the trees and the animals, but maybe even to each other and to ourselves. What we will discover is that the outer limit of our attention can extend much further than we initially might think we have the ability to do. Galen writes, "Gratitude is the practice of radical openness to whatever comes our way, whether for good or for ill. It's a way of living that understands the meaning of our lives in terms of our relationships to the people and the world around us. The practice of gratitude enables us not only to embrace the good experiences in our lives, but also to endure the difficult experiences and seek to transform them. It points the way from what is present to what is possible. It always has based this awareness in all the things that have come our way from the people around us, this inescapable reality that we are contingent creatures and we depend upon our environment for everything that we need." Paying attention, the pathway, openness and radical openness, the pathway to gratitude. I don't have a contract with Galen or Amazon or anything like that, but I will tell you, this would turn into a much longer sermon if I tried to share everything. So I'll just simply name his hallmarks of gratitude as a way to tell you this might be something that you want to look into. But very briefly, Galen points out the hallmarks of gratitude are that gratitude brings the reward of joy, gratitude connects everything, Gratitude emphasizes relationships. Gratitude requires reciprocity. Gratitude takes responsibility. Gratitude creates beauty. Gratitude maximizes dignity. And gratitude seeks possibility. Each with a chapter dedicated to Galen outlining the beauty of how he understands those hallmarks of gratitude. Research has proven that this practice of gratitude in our lives increases our physical and our emotional well-being, helps us in relationships with each other, brings our ability to center ourselves in a spiritual way in our world. It allows us to find goodness in even the most difficult of circumstances, to know that no matter what we are experiencing in our lives on any day, there are opportunities to learn and grow. So I invite us, as the world is centering on food and thankfulness, I invite us at the UCC to center ourselves in the spiritual practice of gratitude.
I invite you to join in our closing hymn number 349, We Gather Together, located in your gray hymnals underneath the seats. Please keep your masks on and up and stand as you're willing and able. I'll sing the first verse and invite you to join in the second.
We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming, committing our passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation. When bound to human care and hope, then we are free.
I invite you to be seated for just a second. And remember your feeling of gratitude for the people that have been involved in our lives. JP is the chair of our personnel committee and has a little bit of an announcement to share. So we're going to let you sit where you are, JP, for that one.
Wow, thank you very much. Awesome sermon. You're awesome. And first, I'd just like to say, boy, what a gift, all the people that work for this congregation, the musicians, the accountants, and, Bill Dolly, who's totally awesome, and so many of these people, and how they care about us and making us all more successful. But one of the things I wanted to share is just that recently we received a resignation from one of our longtime employees, and she just is ready to move on to a new place, and she's going to be sticking with us until the end of May. And I just wanted to do a shout out to Andrea Dudick. And she'll be moving on, but she'll be with us for quite a while. And I got a hold of her this week, and I said, geez, are you going to be there on Sunday? And she said, no, but I'll certainly listen to it or watch it. And I said, well, then we're going to give you some huge applause to Andrea.
Thank you, JP, for sharing the news. JP's going to send out an official announcement too. We got to figure out how to do that because, Andrea is responsible for the publications usually, so we got to actually figure out how to get that done for her. But as y'all, whether you are new here or have been here a long time, you know what Andrea means to our congregation here at the UCC. She is what holds us together. And what makes so many things that we do possible. And so we definitely want to use this time between now and May, as she graciously has given us a chance to prepare her to fill the position. But we have lots of opportunities to express that gratitude. And Andrea is looking forward to being able to come to church and not be the administrator. And so we're not losing her as a member, which I'm very excited about. So remember that. And gratitude, even in times that are sad and difficult, like that, when someone who we love is stepping down from a position, still a great way to navigate that is to move toward our gratitude for who she is in our lives. And that is what will close our chalice out today.
I invite you to join in our congregational benediction.
Thank you. I invite you to join outside for some time of connecting with each other. Hopefully it's warmed up a little bit out there to help us do that.